Welcome back to your Feel Good Breakfast Show right here on SABC3. It's Monday and we're talking all things relationships. Now, they say the longer you date someone, the more likely you will think about moving in together. One day, after all, you're planning on staying together forever. So why not start forever right now? Or perhaps living together could be a good test before you get married, right? Now, whatever the reason, there are several ones when it comes to moving in together for the very first time, and you should know the reason for doing so. So today we're asking you the question, is there a perfect time to move in with your partner? Now, relationship architect Shelley Lewin is in the building to help us discuss this hot topic, and we'd absolutely love to hear from you, your questions and your comments. So head on over to our Facebook page, drop a comment on this post, and we would love to engage with you this morning. Welcome, Shelley.
Thank you so much.
A hot topic today, moving in together.
Absolutely.
Is there a timeline when it's the right time to move in together with a partner?
Well, I think every relationship is unique, and probably there is a generic time frame of between 6 to 12 months that seems to be the standard amount of time. But I would say that it's really important for each couple to know why they want to move in together and what does it mean for their relationship. As you said before, what's the reason why you're wanting to move into the relationship? You know, it really should be part of your commitment strategy, not part of a financial savings strategy.
Take us through the positives. What is maybe on the bucket list why this would be a good thing to move in with your partner, maybe even before marriage?
Okay, so I think, well, first of all, it's very exciting and very romantic. But besides that, it's the first time you really get to demonstrate that the relationship is really important to me, that I'm serious about it, and we're serious about each other. So it's a real sign of commitment moving forward to a future, long-term future together. The other thing about it is that it's really the first opportunity that you get of evaluating your compatibility with someone. Because I really believe that you don't know someone until you live with them. And so it can make or break a relationship. And living together is the best way to have a test drive for marriage and living together. And some people don't live together well, so there's a bit of a risk involved. And I'd say that it's really going to make or break and evaluate your compatibility.
That is so true. Friends of mine actually moved in together first before getting married, and then they ended up not getting married. Like, there's also that risk of it.
Absolutely, it is a risk.
But what things should partners consider before moving in and taking that big step?
Well, I think you pointed it earlier that you really need to consider the reasons why you're doing it. What does this mean to the relationship? Because it's not something that you just let's do it because it's going to be good for us and saving some money every month. You really need, I mean, it's a serious move, so there's quite a lot to consider, you know. First of all, are you able to have transparent, open conversations about money? You know, you're going to be sharing the cost of living, so there needs to be comfort around having difficult conversations. You're going to have conversations around what's our budget, what can I afford, what can you afford. You need to be able to decide who's going to be contributing what, how much are we contributing each towards the household. And then there's all those difficult conversations around how you're going to be splitting the domestic duties. You know, so things that often happen as people fall into those traditional gender roles. Oh, girls should do this, boys should do that, and that's your first step towards domestic conflict, is going in with these kinds of assumptions. So I'd say that you almost want to know that first of all, that you have the ability to do rupture and repair, that if we have an argument about something, we know how to reconcile, that we have the skill, that it doesn't just every time we have an argument, it gets swept under the carpet. Because if you don't have that skill going into living together, it's just going to become a nightmare. And then what often happens is that the relationship then gets this, could be described as, I don't know if you've ever heard of John Gottman, he's a psychologist, and he describes the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Okay. And basically, if you have criticism, contempt, defensiveness and withdrawal. So if your relationship can be described as one that has a strong feeling of criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and withdrawal, you do not have the skills to live together. Oh, wow. Because essentially you aren't able to overcome problems. You don't have what it takes to work things through and to repair and to reconcile when things don't go well. So if you know that going in, it's not a good idea to move in together.
Absolutely. Shelley, Lewin, love having you in studio. Now, of course, we are going to continue this conversation a little bit later for part 2 of moving in together. Head on over to our socials. We love to hear from you. Moving in together, is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? We unpack that a little bit later on your Feel Good Breakfast Show.
It's my Feel Good Breakfast Show.
Welcome back to your Feel Good Breakfast Show right here on SABC3. It's a Monday and we're talking all things relationships this morning. And today the relationship architect, Shelley Lewin, is in the hot seat to help us discuss what couples should consider when they want to move in together. We'd love to hear your questions and comments, so head on over to our Facebook page, drop a comment on this post and we will engage with you. Now, we already have a comment that came through for you this morning, and that comes from Gif. She says, I don't think there's a perfect time for such, just as there isn't a perfect time to get married, but when 2 adults decide to make an adult decision that makes them happy, that's it. Do you agree?
Absolutely.
Yes, there's something you touched on earlier.
The key word there is adult decision. That it's 2 adults agreeing to take our relationship forward to the next step. It's not seen as something that where we can save some money, you know. The larger picture there is that we get along, we love each other, we're enthusiastic, we want this, we're excited about this. It's not, oh, I'm under financial pressure, there's a rush, let's do this.
Let's talk about that, though, because a lot of times we see couples move in together to try and solve problems beforehand and thinking, you know what, when we move in together, it might solve problems, maybe financially or maybe just catfighting. What is your take on that?
So any issues that you have will only be magnified and intensified when you're living together. So if there's trust issues in the relationship, for example, someone might think, oh, good idea, let's move in, and then I've got my eye on you. When actually, if you've got trust issues in the relationship and you think that living in together is the best way to solve that, essentially what you're doing is becoming a surveillance officer. And your partner is going to feel like they're living with someone who's what you're doing, where you're going, the intensity of that is going to increase. So it's not a way to fix issues. They have to be resolved first before. It's not going to fix them.
Absolutely. But it also all comes down to communication. I mean, it's about speaking before the time, right? But you also, like you were saying, problems magnify once you're living in. How do couples then navigate around that situation? Because obviously you're now in each other's space maybe 24/7. If I hate the fact that you're leaving your socks everywhere, how do you then say, you know what, Boo Boo Kitty, it is time for you to pick up your socks?
Well, I think that being assertive is very helpful instead of it building resentment, underlying resentment, so the skillful communication. And also that you are adult about this. You know, this is a project. It's like we are 2 humans who are now going to figure out how to live together well. And people bring their assumptions about what's normal and appropriate. So what's normal is, for example, we save all plastic and we save tinfoil and we don't throw anything away. That might be normal for one person. The other person throws everything away. I don't want collecting, hoarding, collecting junk, chuck it, chuck it, chuck it. So you've got 2 very fundamentally different ways of living and styles. And what can happen is it can become about my way is better and no, my way is better. Who's right? My way, your way, my way, your way. When actually it's not about your position, it's about the need underneath. What is it about the behavior? You want to negotiate your needs so that you can find a new way, our way, a third way, or even a new way. Maybe we should recycle then. Maybe, you know, maybe we can save and we can chuck some stuff. Which are the things we save? Which are the things we chuck? So it's about having communication, understanding the need that's driving the behavior, and then negotiating that. My way, your way, our way, a new way.
Definitely. Interesting conversation to have. We are going to continue this conversation with part 2. But for now, we are just going to be chatting all things. Maybe if you don't want to move in together and maybe you want to take a holiday, Uncle Taviso finds out how you can do that.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back to your Feel Good Breakfast Show right here on SABC3. Now, it's Monday and we're talking all things relationships. And today, the relationship architect, Shelley Lewin, is in the hot seat to help us discuss what couples should consider when they want to move in together. We'd love to hear your questions and comments. So head on over to our Facebook page, drop a comment on this post, and we would love to engage with you this morning. Now, Shelley Lewin, this is the big word, the F, finances, okay? How do you go about speaking about finances once you're moving in together? Should there be a list? Should there be rules? How do we speak about that if you plan on moving in together?
Well, I love that you said should, because there's no should specifically. For every couple is going to be different, and for some couples, it works to split it 50-50. For some couples, they pay proportionately depending on the amount of income that they earn. The crucial part is that they both feel right, that it's right and that it's fair. And it's this feeling of that it's fair to us both and that we're comfortable with it. And that can be something that you negotiate as you go. And if one person feels like I'm really doing my best, but it's actually I'm really struggling, we need to have this F-word conversation, you know. And if you aren't adult enough to talk about finances, then really you aren't adult enough to be living together.
Definitely. We have a few social media comments that came through. One of them is, I like Brandon, says, we're all different and all relationships are different. 1 month might be perfect for some couples and 1 year better for others. Yes. I don't think there's a right and wrong answer here, correct?
Absolutely.
The other one comes in from Martin. It says, it's never a good idea to move in together. You want to live with her, marry her. Yes, Martin, preach. Now, moving in together allows couples to enjoy and exhaust the benefits that come with marriage. By the time they get married, there's nothing exciting anymore. Let's keep the anytime sleepovers up and work towards a serious commitment, which is marriage. I do agree a little bit. Now, the next one comes through from Nomkosi, says, we moved in together a month into the relationship. Shoo, moving fast. Yes. And 11 months later, my main issue is the gender roles mentality that he has. Other than that, I don't regret it.
Yes.
And then the last, which we discussed, correct? And then the last comment comes through from Jacques Adamon, says, me and my wife moved in together 3 months after we started dating. Well, today we are married for 8 years. So in my opinion, it's sometimes good to get to know each other first before getting married.
Yes, you know, some people don't live together well. And it's shown that it's definitely become more acceptable or more it's more of a trend. So from what I can understand, it's increased by, so unmarried couples cohabiting has increased by 900% in the last 50 years. Wow. So there's obviously a trend for it. And I think that the reason why, and I've seen it in my practice, is that some couples just don't live together well. And actually, when you're married and you realize, oh my goodness, how am I going to spend the rest of my life with this person? And I'll share with you an example where I had a couple who, for him, safety and being at home was a sacred space. And to feel safe and relaxed, he needed this clean, minimalistic home. Everything had its place. And what would happen is he'd come home and his wife was the exact opposite. She was creative, she was artistic, there was stuff everywhere, lying all over the place. And it used to make him, it used to put him into an absolute state. So he was resisting going home all the time. And they'd had conversations and fights and conversations and fights. We tried a couple of different strategies. He got his own room, his own space where he could have it clean and perfect and he could retreat to that place. They got a big basket where they would, if he saw anything lying around, he would throw things in the basket. So she had her place to mess everything and he could chuck everything in there. And she had to clean the basket out once a week. So they tried to navigate their way around these things. But at the end of the day, the living together was such an awful experience for him specifically that he ended up not wanting to go home. And, you know, and that's just a small example how if you had stayed together and lived together, that they might have decided earlier that living together or getting married was not necessarily ideal. And that's just the essence of a person. Those are things that you can't really change. There are some things that you can't change.
And final, your closing From your personal, point of view, should you not?
I think that it is up to each person that needs to figure out for themselves what's going to be best for them and aligned with who they are, their belief systems, their traditions, their culture, and what's going to be work for the couple. So it's up to the couple to decide going forward what's going to be best for them.
Interesting. Thank you so much, Shelley, Lewin. It's been amazing having this conversation with you. We are continuing this conversation. Maybe next time you will tell us a bit more about it, but we loved having you in studio today, Shelley, Lewin, on your Feel Good Breakfast Show right here.